Hello, and welcome to Liberty Wolf. My name is Zach Strong. I'm the creator of this Liberty Wolf podcast, and I will serve as your host. Since this is the opening broadcast, a few words of introduction and explanation are in order. First, the name Liberty Wolf. What does Liberty Wolf mean, and why have I chosen a picture of a wolf's face superimposed over the top of a cross made of bones as my logo? Well, in ancient Hebrew thought, bones sometimes represented resurrection. The cross is obviously a traditional symbol of Christianity, and the wolf has a very interesting connotation that's useful to my purposes here. Many people attach a dark or ominous connotation or meaning to the wolf. However, the wolf is actually a symbol of loyalty. It's a symbol of fierce loyalty. So when you put all these various components together, it represents my fierce loyalty and my fierce devotion to seeing the cause of Christianity and the cause of liberty resurrect here in America. Now, for as long as I can remember, I've had a deep and burning love for freedom. I love liberty. I love our God-given rights. I love the U.S. Constitution. My political awakening occurred when I was about 12 years old in around 1999. At that time, I had a very special experience, a somewhat sacred personal experience, where I learned that communism was not dead, and where I learned that the Soviet Union had not collapsed, but had faked its demise in order to lull the West into a false sense of security in preparation for their dealing the final death blow to what little remained of the free world. Now, I'm a little bit of an expert on Russia. I've lived in Russia for a couple years. I speak the language. I've devoted myself to studying it. I've now published 2 books about the communist conspiracy, which I'll mention later. So over the course of this podcast, I will be talking much more about Russia, China, communism, and the whole communist conspiracy and all of its satanic aspects. Now, politically, I'm a constitutionalist. I'm a Jeffersonian and a thoroughly dyed-in-the-wool American. And as such, I recognized from a very early age that both the Republican and Democratic parties were absolutely horrendous, that they did not follow the Founding Fathers' principles. They do not espouse the founding ideals of this country. They do not support the U.S. Constitution. Neither side does. Both sides have given us nothing for about 180 years, nothing whatsoever but astronomical debt. And they've taken us repeatedly into immoral wars of aggression. They've mangled the Constitution. Just everything they've done has been horrendous for America. There's nothing, and I repeat, nothing, that the Republicans and Democrats have ever done that has benefited this country, benefited the Republic, or furthered the cause of freedom and liberty. The Republicans and Democrats are 2 wings of the same bird of prey, and the United States of America is the prey. They are 2 sides of the same counterfeit coin that's no longer currency. They are buzzards, blue and red buzzards, that jointly feast upon the American corpse. I hope I'm coming across clear enough. Now, with this understanding, I've fortunately avoided the pitfalls of ever voting Republican or Democrat. I've always voted independent or third party. In fact, around the year 2002-ish, I found a political party that I really loved, a third party called the Independent American Party. It was founded in Utah in the 1990s. And now, as I looked through their platform, their principles, I realized their principles were really the principles of our founding fathers, the principles of liberty, the true purpose of government. They understood what it really meant. And so I've belonged to that organization ever since. I've been involved with them in a number of capacities. If you look at their website, I was the primary author of their freedom documents, what they're called. While I was consistently writing articles for them, I wrote about 54 of them, some of which have been lost in switching web hosts over the years, but you can still find some of them floating around. In 2014 was kind of the high point of my involvement with the IAP. When they asked me to run for the U.S. House of Representatives out of Utah's 3rd District, which I did. That was a wonderful experience, and I learned and confirmed even more for myself that the Republicans and Democrats are both completely and thoroughly corrupt. I have a letter, I have it stashed away in a box here, that I received from the government of Utah, telling me that I was banned from the debates. Now, this was in violation of Utah state law. The Utah state law requires that if public money is used for the debates, that all official ballot candidates have to be required to participate in the debate. This, however, did not happen, and all third parties and independent candidates were officially barred and banned. Only the Republicans and Democrats were allowed to be at the debate. Now, since that time, 2014, I have been an admin for a number of Facebook pages and groups. The Awaken to Our Awful Situation page. Very good experiences being with them. Since that time, the last couple of years, I've created about 7 of my own Facebook pages, one of which has been completely deleted by Facebook for alleged hate speech violations. I've, like many on our side of the political spectrum, I've had many assaults from Facebook and others with them taking down my pages, banning my pages, putting me on temporary suspensions. It's happened constantly. The attack on free speech in modern America is not going away. It's increasing. It's going to be harder in the future to get our message out, but we have to do it. To increase my influence and the message I'm trying to spread my message further, I've created a couple different websites. One of them is theamericancitadel.com. I publish articles there every 2-3 weeks or so. I've amassed about 27 or so as of this recording. I have also just created a second website called libertywolf.com. That's where all of these podcasts will be hosted, as well as YouTube and hopefully as many other platforms as I can get them on. That's libertywolf.com. You also have a written version of my remarks every week. And so I hope you check those out, and I hope you read them, study them, share them with your friends and family. Now, I want to talk a little bit about my 2 books. Since I'm a writer, I love to write, and the topic that I've been most passionate about is communism and the communist conspiracy and its machinations against our freedom, our liberty, our way of life. My first book, which was self-published in January of this year, was titled A Century of Red. Now, it talks about and reveals the politically incorrect origins, history, and legacy of communism. I focused on the occult and satanic aspects of communism. Most people erroneously think that communism is atheistic. That's absolutely not true. While the main body of communists might be, the higher echelons, the leaders, the Karl Marx, Adam Weishaupt, Vladimir Lenin, and these sorts of sordid characters, they were Satanists. There's a wonderful book by Richard Wurmbrand titled Marx and Satan. It's just one source I'll cite right now with evidence of that. Now, my second book just came out last month in June. It's titled Red Gadiantons, What the Prophets Have Taught About the Communist Secret Combination That Threatens Mankind. Now, this book takes much more of a religious perspective and goes through the scriptures, both ancient and modern, and really shows the history of secret societies, secret combinations. And it discusses what prophets, ancient and modern, have discussed regarding these satanic secret societies and communism in particular. I'm very proud of this book. It weighs in at 152,000 words and 542 pages in paperback with brilliant cover art by 2 of my friends, Kylie and Jessica Malkus. They're the same sisters who put together the logo for this Liberty Wolf podcast, and they do brilliant work, and I highly recommend their work. Now, in the future on this podcast, I'm going to talk about a lot of topics. Anything's fair game, because my philosophy is that truth is what I'm about. I'm about truth. I think education is the key to any positive change, and truth is the only kind of education that really matters, is learning what the truth is on any given subject. And so I will talk about things ranging from issues dealing with freedom, the U.S. Constitution, to feminism, the LGBT movement, the chaos in the Middle East, satanic ritual abuse, communism, Russia, China, foreign policy, Donald Trump, the whole works. Anything's on the table. I never bow to the dictates of political correctness, and I don't really care what the mass of people say. I don't care what the majority thinks. The majority normally is wrong. And if you haven't learned that yet, that's something I hope you take away from this podcast, that the majority is normally wrong. And if you're on their side, it's time to stop and really think about your position. Now, if you have something that you disagree with me with, and I guarantee you will at some point, and if you want to inform me about it, please do so in a civil, courteous manner. I'm more than happy to read comments saying that I'm wrong and explaining why, but please do so in a very civil way. Don't come on here onto my page, my YouTube channel, my Facebook pages, and try to assassinate my character, try to call me names, and don't use profanity, don't do any of these sorts of things. Be civil. Let's have a civil discourse. And that's how we get to truth right there, is when we're sincere, when we have intellectual honesty, and when we're willing to do whatever it takes to get to the truth. Now, I want to remind you that this podcast will be hosted on my YouTube channel as well as libertywolf.com. I will also spread it around my various Facebook pages, and I'll have links to those, hopefully in a number of spots here. And I hope that this podcast gets out to a lot of people. And I hope that you're willing to help spread this message. Because if we're not willing to share what we know and to help educate others, help alert and awaken others, what does any of our knowledge mean? It doesn't mean anything if it's not being used. And so we need to use it to help bring back the traditional way of the traditional Americanism. U.S. Constitution, the sorts of principles codified in the Declaration of Independence and in the writings of our founding fathers. Traditional Americanism. That's what we need to resurrect here. And along with that goes traditional morality, Christianity, and I'm not going to shy away from talking about those things. And so I hope that you'll tune in with me my next episode. Episode number 2 is going to tackle the issue of what is liberty. I think that's a very important topic, because if we don't know what liberty is, how are we ever going to defend it? Now, I thank you for tuning in this time and putting up with my somewhat whiny voice. Thank you for taking the time. And for now, I'm going to say goodbye. Sic Semper Tyrannis, and long live liberty.